Welcome to the Deep Dive, your shortcut to being genuinely well informed. We sift through stacks of sources to bring you what really matters. Now, imagine for a second there's this simple, everyday secret, something that could genuinely add years of, vibrant, energetic life to your future. And it's hiding right there in plain sight, something maybe fundamental, but so often overlooked, maybe even pushed aside. Today, we're doing a deep dive into exactly that green tea. We're looking at what our sources reveal about the Japanese secret to anti-aging and longevity.
Cool.
We've pulled out the most impactful findings, and honestly, what we've discovered goes way beyond just a pleasant hot drink.
Absolutely. Our mission today is really to move past the surface level, the common ideas about green tea. We want to explore why this humble beverage has been such a cornerstone of health for Japanese centenarians for well over 1,000 years. How does it let them maintain such remarkable youthfulness, sustain their energy, keep their minds incredibly sharp, well into their 80s, 90s, even beyond? We'll dig into how it fundamentally influences the aging process right down at the cellular level. And in doing that, hopefully clarify some pretty pervasive misconceptions about its real power.
Okay, to really get a feel for the implications here, let's start with a story we came across. It's about Margaret, a 78-year-old grandmother from Ohio. Her daily life, well, it had become a real struggle. She had severe arthritis, making picking up her grandchildren quite painful. There were age spots she felt self-conscious about, and her energy just plummeted. Afternoon naps weren't a choice anymore, they were a necessity. But her turning point, it came unexpectedly. It was through her daughter-in-law who'd just gotten back from a trip to Japan. Right, and then this daughter-in-law, she was apparently just blown away by what she saw over there. She described seeing elderly Japanese folks, many well into their 80s, even 90s, actively working in gardens, climbing stairs without any help. Their skin looked, well, vital, glowing even, and their minds seemed incredibly clear, sharp. It just wasn't the kind of aging she was used to seeing back home. And their secret, she found out, wasn't some expensive clinic or wonder drug. It was a simple, natural drink, one that, frankly, is often dismissed or just not prepared right in the West.
What's so fascinating there, I think, is the powerful contrast. That image versus our typical Western narrative around aging. We're sort of conditioned to expect this steady decline, right?
Yeah.
But here you have communities really define their expectations. It's quite striking how something so accessible, almost mundane, can hold such profound implications.
Yeah.
Often overlooked because it's simple. It really challenges us to rethink what aging has to mean.
Okay, that story definitely sets the scene, but you mentioned it's not just stories. Our research gets into the science. So what are the key compounds? What makes green tea so uniquely effective, beyond just being generally good for you?
Right. The real power, it seems, lies in these unique antioxidants called catechins. These aren't just your run-of-the-mill free radical fighters. Catechins, and especially one called epigallocatechin, GALA-EGCG for short, they have a very distinct molecular structure. This lets them neutralize a broader range of damaging free radicals. And some studies show potency, way beyond vitamin C or E when you look at specific cellular pathways involved in oxidative stress. It's this kind of nuanced action that makes them so protective against the cellular damage that, that causes aging. Everything from wrinkles to joint pain, even cognitive decline.
That's a big step up from just a general antioxidant. So how do these catechins, EGCG in particular, actually work in our bodies to create these kinds of effects?
Yeah.
So I saw some pretty bold claims like green tea can reprogram your DNA at the cellular level. That sounds huge.
It is a bold claim, and it's important we unpack what that really means. Our sources point to a really fascinating mechanism. Green tea, and EGCG specifically, it doesn't literally rewrite your genetic code, no. Instead, it seems to profoundly influence gene expression. Think of it like activating the on switch for genes that promote cellular repair, antioxidant defense, longevity pathways. While at the same time, it helps to dim the off switch for genes that accelerate things like inflammation and cellular aging. This subtle yet pretty powerful epigenetic effect influencing how your genes behave. That's what researchers often refer to as reprogramming. And there's a lot of research backing this, over 1,000 peer-reviewed studies looking into these mechanisms. It's about optimizing how your existing genetic blueprint actually functions day to day.
That makes much more sense, influencing the switches, not rewriting the whole program.
Okay.
And it sounds like this EGCG is the real star player then. I read about Dr. Hiroshi Sato, a Japanese researcher who spent decades on this. He's 92, apparently looks much, much younger. What did his work show about EGCG specifically?
Dr. Sato's work, like over 40 years of it, really highlights EGCG's crucial role in protecting our telomeres. Telomeres, you can imagine them as tiny protective caps on the ends of your chromosomes. Like the plastic tips on shoelaces, they stop the important stuff, your DNA, from fraying or getting damaged.
Okay.
Now, as we age, every time a cell divides, these telomeres naturally get a little bit shorter. And when they become too short, the cell can't divide properly anymore. It either becomes dysfunctional, kind of like a zombie cell, or just dies off. This cellular breakdown is directly linked to, well, the visible signs of aging wrinkles, age spots, gray hair, but also the internal stuff: joint pain, memory problems, a higher risk for chronic diseases. EGCG, as Dr. Sato's research really emphasized, seems to help preserve the length of these telomeres and essentially helps slow down that cellular clock, keeping your cells functionally younger and more resilient for longer.
So it's not just skin deep. It's fundamentally about slowing the aging process from the inside, right down at the cellular level. Which brings us back to Margaret. After she learned about this from her daughter-in-law, what happened? What changes did she actually experience, and how fast? The accounts are pretty amazing, actually. Within just 3 weeks of consistently drinking green tea prepared the traditional Japanese way, mind you, Margaret reported a huge decrease in her arthritis pain, something like 70%. Her energy levels, which had been so low, just soared. And she started getting comments, people asking, what have you been doing? You look younger, more vibrant.
And this wasn't just her feeling better either. Her doctor, apparently quite skeptical at first, ran blood tests. The results were really compelling. Her inflammatory markers, key indicators of age-related disease risk, had dropped dramatically to levels you typically see in someone maybe 30 years younger. Yeah. Her cholesterol profile also improved significantly, and cognitive tests showed really quite stunning improvements in her memory and focus. It points to a comprehensive physiological shift, not just, feeling a bit perkier.
Okay, so connecting this to the bigger picture then, what does this mean for overall health and longevity? What are the broader long-term benefits our sources point towards from this kind of cellular support?
The broader implications are, well, they seem quite profound. Beyond the smoother skin and stronger bones, which are nice benefits, of course, we're talking about significantly improved memory, better focus, overall mental clarity. That's tied directly to that improved cellular health. Green tea seems to actively boost cardiovascular health, too, reducing arterial plaque buildup, decreasing systemic inflammation, contributing to healthier blood pressure, improving cholesterol ratios.
So the heart benefits, too.
Absolutely. And taken together, these benefits seem to dramatically reduce the risk of major age-related diseases, things like Alzheimer's, heart disease, even certain types of cancer. Some research, and this is really intriguing, even suggests that consistent, proper green tea consumption might potentially extend human lifespan by, say, 10 to 20 years. And crucially, the idea is extending health span, ensuring those extra years are lived with vitality, independence, and a high quality of life.
That's incredibly compelling stuff, but it does raise that question, the one maybe a lot of listeners are thinking right now. Hang on, I've tried green tea, it tasted bitter, or I drank it for a while, I didn't really notice these amazing benefits. So what's going on there? Why aren't these incredible advantages, why aren't they shouted from the rooftops in mainstream health advice?
That's a really critical why not question, isn't it?
Yeah.
And there seem to be a couple of key reasons why most people in, say, the US or Europe miss out. Firstly, it often comes down to preparation. Using water that's boiling hot or steeping it for way too long. These are really common mistakes. It extracts too many tannins and other compounds that make it taste bitter and harsh, masking the delicate flavors.
Oh.
It might even degrade some of the beneficial compounds.
Oh, okay.
Secondly, and this is perhaps even more critical, is the quality of the tea itself. A lot of the mass-produced tea bags you find in supermarkets, they often contain, frankly, inferior tea dust and fannings, broken bits of leaves. They might have been improperly processed, stored for a long time, and they've likely lost a significant chunk of their potent catechins, especially that key EGCG.
So the source matters a lot.
Definitely. And then to your second point about why it isn't more widely promoted, well, you have to consider the economics. The anti-aging industry is massive, right? A multi-billion-dollar market built on selling expensive creams, complex supplements, procedures. There's just realistically less financial incentive to heavily promote a simple, inexpensive, natural remedy like green tea that anyone can prepare themselves. The focus tends to stay on patented, high-margin products. It's kind of a tough truth.
That perspective definitely adds another layer. Okay, so it really sounds like the details, how you make it, what tea you use, they genuinely matter. If we want to unlock these benefits, what have the Japanese learned? How did they master this over centuries? What are the specifics we should know? Well, they've really perfected it, haven't they? Understanding that precision is key, both for the taste and for getting the full potency. Our sources detailed what Margaret learned. She found out you need to heat the water to exactly 175 degrees Fahrenheit. That's about 80 Celsius. Not boiling. Boiling water can actually damage those delicate compounds. Then she'd use high-quality loose-leaf tea and steep it for precisely 3 minutes. No more, no less. And critically, she made it her morning ritual. Drinking it first thing on an empty stomach seems to maximize the absorption of those powerful catechins. These small adjustments apparently made all the difference for her.
Exactly. And that focus on quality and precision, it starts right from choosing the tea. You really want to look for organic, loose-leaf green tea. Ideally, find sources that mention things like mineral-rich soil, optimal harvest time, and quick processing. These all help preserve the active compounds.
So skip the standard supermarket tea bags.
Generally, yes. They often contain older broken leaves, sometimes called dust or fannings, which just don't have the same potency. The difference in quality, honestly, can be like comparing a high-grade nutritional supplement to one that's mostly fillers. You want the good stuff. There's a wonderful Japanese saying, tea is medicine disguised as pleasure. And when you approach it this way, following these guidelines, you start to notice things. Not just the taste is better, but you feel that gentle energy boost, the mental clarity, and then the gradual but really noticeable improvements in overall well-being and even appearance start to emerge.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, it really presents you, our listener, with quite a compelling choice, doesn't it? You can sort of continue down the path of accepting age-related decline as, well, just an inevitable part of life. Or you could choose to embrace this ancient wisdom, this simple practice that, as our sources strongly suggest, genuinely seems to have the power to transform your later years into truly golden years. Years filled with vitality, with health, with the energy to really engage with life, with your family, with your passions.
And this brings up an important point, really. Knowledge is one thing, but action is where the change happens, right? The scientific evidence we've talked about is pretty robust, and stories like Margaret's are incredibly inspiring. But real transformation always comes down to commitment. So maybe here's a little challenge, or perhaps just an invitation, along with some concrete next steps you could take. First, seek out some high-quality, organic, loose-leaf green tea. Check out a local health food store. They often have good options. Or look for reputable suppliers online. And to get that preparation right, maybe consider getting a simple kitchen thermometer if you don't have one, and a decent tea strainer. And then just commit. Commit to preparing and drinking 1 cup the right way every single morning for the next 30 days. Just see how you feel. Pay attention.
Yeah, don't let another day just drift by without exploring what this simple ancient secret might actually do for you. Your future self, the one who's maybe feeling more energetic, sharper, healthier, they will absolutely thank you for taking the small action today. You might notice subtle benefits like more energy or mental clarity within just a few weeks. But the more dramatic, maybe even visible transformations, those tend to appear after a few months of consistent, correct use. Just remember, aging doesn't automatically have to mean decline. Your best years, they don't have to be behind you. They could genuinely, truly be ahead of you.